for tuning in to my review of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Kesey. It's been a very long time since I've seen the film starring Jack Nicholson, but upon reading this book, it all kind of come back to me that the book and the film it's the same translation. That it's basically the movie is a translation, literal translation of the book. I do have to admit that upon reading this book, I found it a little disturbing and a little awkward. I found it hard to really get into this book for the fact of the matter that when you see how cruel and just the controlling factor of the staff on the patients. And I'm going to go into that a little bit more and explain why I felt that way. Well, anyways, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, not many books about mental illness or mental health institutions are around, so I think that's why this book is so successful and why it has become a classic. The reader is introduced to the ward, which is run by a nurse, a matronly, stubborn, bullheaded woman, an older woman named Nurse Ratched. And she oversees the ward where there are patients who are really normal people. They call them the acutes. One of them is a closeted homosexual. Another guy has a stutter. A couple of the guys are epileptics. And the Indian, the Native American Chief Bromden, they call him, I'm not sure if he is schizophrenic or if it's the drugs that make him hallucinate. It's never really explained, and you kind of just have to, because it's all told from his point of view. It's all told from his perspective, the events going on in the book. And then, of course, you have the chronics. These are the people who have had just too many shock therapies, or they've had lobotomies, or they're just so mentally gone that they're vegetables. At some point in the story, they get a new patient named Randall McMurphy. McMurphy, you get right away, he's a boasting person, he's boastful, he's a braggart, he's a con man, and he's sent from the work farms, which I guess is like a prison type deal, and you kind of know right away, is he there because he's a psychopath, or is he there just because he's conning the court system because he wants an easy way to do his time? Right away, McMurphy is trying to, he sees the way the ward is run. He sees how much control the nurse and the aides have over the patients and how the patients are so cowed into submission to doing whatever the nurse wants. Even the doctor, who should be in control of the ward, cows down to Miss Nurse Ratched. So at some points I found this very uncomfortable, the fact that, and they mentioned, because this book takes in either the late 1950s or early 1960s, and Ken Kesey had a background with mental health institutions because he worked in one before he wrote this book, and that's where he first experienced LSD. Now, they mention how they're not as bad as they used to be because they no longer do all the tortures on the patients. They don't assault the patients or neglect them the way they used to be, but you kind of still see that the patients are being abused mentally by the nurse in their group meetings, and the threats of using electroshock therapy and lobotomization. You get how the patients still are being treated badly. McMurphy sees this, and of course, he wants to fight the system. We see in the book how McMurphy interacts with his fellow patients and how he kind of coaxes them out of their shells. and makes them become better people, and how they start to stand up for themselves and the rights that they have as human beings. And I think it's a great thing that he does. I'm not going to tell you any more about how he fights the system. I don't want to spoil the book for you, but that's mostly what this book is about. And an awakening of the patients on the ward while he does this. I have to say this is a very, very good book, one that I would rate 4 stars. I think that it's worthy if you have an interest in psychology or perhaps mental illness or how institutions are run. This is a very good example, one that you should check out. That is my review of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Kesey. Thank you for tuning in, and until next time, later guys.